Right. So consistency. Why do I think it's rare? Well, a couple of points. One thing is consistency. What is it? Is the opposite of intensity. Consistency is the opposite of intensity. Right? And what is intensity? What fuels intensity? Right? So, motivation. No. Hold on. Motivation fuels intensity. And if motivation fuels intensity, right, and that's the thing that's required for intensity to occur, especially in the beginning. So there should be especially in beginning. There is a caveat: motivation later on. Intensity can be fueled by discipline and stuff like that later on, but this is especially in the beginning, right, in the beginning stages. Later on, intensity can definitely be fueled by stuff like discipline, routine, like a habit, something like that, and belief. Believing the other type of person that's, for example, trains intensely, right? Anyways, so motivation fuels intensity, right? Motivation, if you take that now, that is something that doesn't improve a person's discipline or their willpower. Because willpower only improves when challenged. And discipline only improves when you do what you don't want to do. Okay? So in the beginning, right? Let's get this and go. In the beginning. In the beginning, we should not focus on intensity because it doesn't build the foundation, which are, so let me put in brackets here, doesn't build foundation. Right? And what are the foundations? Well, the foundations are what we just mentioned here: willpower and discipline. Those two foundations. That's what intensity doesn't build. So, go back. So why I'm trying to understand why consistency is rare. So we now know that if we don't have the foundations built over here, if we don't have these, then, which are basically discipline and willpower, of these, this and that. If we don't have these, right, then we can't really consistently do intense work, right? And we can't forget about intensity, we can't even be consistent regardless. So consistency long term is fueled by discipline and willpower, basically. Right? So consistency, let me write that down. Consistency is fueled by willpower and discipline long term. Alright. Try to understand what consistency is. Why is consistency itself rare? Alright. So let's look at what's actually not rare. So if we draw a graph and we put down intensity. Intensity, when I speak about intensity in this context, I'm not talking about intensity from a person that's already disciplined or has willpower in whatever goal they're trying to pursue. I'm talking about intensity as a burst of energy. Energy plus dopamine from motivation. Anyways, consistency is fueled by willpower and discipline long term. Why is consistency rare? Alright, so when it comes to intensity, right, you have your intensity all the way up here where you start, and you have it for a couple of days. It might go slightly down and back up, then slightly down and back up, and eventually the intensity drops because you're not even training at all. Right? So that would be intensity. When it comes to staying consistent while you build willpower and while you build willpower and discipline, right? The intensity is in the beginning low, but it slowly ramps up, and you might have troughs, peaks and troughs, peaks and troughs and peaks and troughs, but the general direction is gonna be going up. So what that means is, when it comes so this graph over here, this would be due to motivation. And this graph is due to discipline plus willpower. Okay. So now I see why it's rare, because this graph, the discipline and willpower graph, this does not go down. This consistently goes up, and more likely it will continue to go up, right? That's discipline about. Whereas the intensity graph, the motivation graph, goes down and stops halfway through, or less than halfway through. And that shows why it's rare, because consistency is fueled by willpower and discipline long term. That's the main thing, long term. I mentioned it earlier, but I didn't realize. Long term. So, the main thing is willpower and discipline. But we've got two things here. So we've got willpower and we've got discipline. Of these two, out of willpower and discipline, which is the best one to rely on? Well, let's define willpower first. Willpower. Alright, so we talk about willpower. If you draw it as a graph, it's a bit clearer to see, but as a reserve, so you've got time at the bottom, the x-axis, and obviously willpower on the y-axis. Right. So you start off with extremely high willpower, And the more difficult task you do might go down. A couple of days later, it might reset, go a little bit up. If you push yourself, it might go slightly down, come back up slightly. It might go back down. You see something motivational brings you right back up, but eventually your tiredness catches up with you. You go down, and the general direction is downwards. And that means that it looks like it's not that sustainable. So not to sustain a bowl. Right. That's willpower. Now when we talk about discipline, you draw the same graph, time at the bottom. Discipline on the y-axis. Discipline usually starts off very low, but you do difficult things and it gets better. Maybe you slack off a little bit, it goes down, but you do more difficult things and it gets better. Slack off a little bit more, better, take a break, long stint, and it gets better and better usually. That's how it goes. The general direction is up. The willpower graph looks eerily similar to the motivation slash intensity, the motivation graph basically, right? These two are very similar. The only difference is that motivation doesn't automatically regenerate, right? So you'd have to have something that pops it off. Maybe you see something online or whatever. Regardless, motivation doesn't automatically generate. Willpower does regenerate, right? Automatically. So if motivation is step one, willpower should be step 2, and that would make discipline step 3. Discipline doesn't need regeneration. Doesn't need regeneration. It doesn't need time because it'll just go up by itself. So now we see the logical progression of mechanisms that are used to build a person, to build your habit or to build your thing. Trying to understand why consistency is rare. To be honest with you, I think we found the answer. It's probably this. You highlight it, put a box around it. This here. Consistency is fueled by willpower and discipline. But even now, we can get rid of willpower, right? So consistency is fueled by discipline, long term. So long term discipline fuels consistency. And that's why it's rare, because people don't rely on it. Rather, people rely on willpower and motivation, right? So let's put a asterisk. People mostly rely on motivation and willpower instead of discipline, because that is the path of least resistance. Alright, cool. Next one. I think that kind of answers the question for the most part. I think we should write discipline, or instead of discipline, over time. Alright, cool. And then what I want to know is what step 4 is. So what can we brainstorm to find out what the 4th step is? So if motivation is the first step, type of thing, willpower slightly better, discipline increases it. What's step 4? Alright, so what is a general trend we're looking at through these graphs? Okay, so the first graph when it comes to motivation goes down and doesn't regenerate by itself. The second one goes down but does regenerate by itself slowly. And the third one, discipline, goes up but doesn't need regeneration. The more you do it, the better it gets. And I think that might just be the key. So if you bring number 4 here and you write out the question, what is step 4? By the way, this bit here, this is all extra. This is not part of the question. I think I've answered the question for today's whatever. In this bit, this asterisk is kind of the answer, in my opinion. But just because out of curiosity, I think I want to go a bit further and see what step 4 is. So I said motivation goes down without regeneration, willpower goes down with regeneration, discipline doesn't need regeneration but goes up. It doesn't require regeneration but goes up. Why does discipline go up? Because you do it consistently. So what is step 4? Step 4 has to be something that is consistent. And ideally it will be something that is consistent that builds upon itself without friction. So something that's consistent, something that regenerates itself with a upwards trajectory. The upwards trajectory. Okay, so we've got these 2 points, something that's consistent and something that regenerates itself with an upward trajectory. Okay, well, if something is consistent, it's basically kind of like a habit. So habit, that's an idea. If it regenerates itself with an upward trajectory, it could be like an addiction, AWD, ICTION. So habit, addiction. Let me see if there's anything else I can think of. It's gotta have no friction, so no friction. Right, no friction. Living, so lifestyle. Maybe lifestyle. TYLE. Okay, so step 4 has to be either habit, addiction, or lifestyle, right? Okay. So, if it's, what it looks like to me is that a lot of the time a habit could lead to an addiction, right? And then an addiction would lead to a lifestyle change, right? And then what would a lifestyle change lead to? Because if a habit leads to an addiction, because a habit you kind of force yourself in the beginning to do, you kind of force yourself, right? Force yourself to build. You force yourself to build this, and then the addiction can't stop doing it. Can't stop doing it now. And then a lifestyle, you don't question it. Don't question it. What comes after lifestyle? That's the main point. What comes after lifestyle? I don't know. I think it'll probably be for something to come after lifestyle. For something to come after the lifestyle, it would have to, because I don't think there's anything that can come to benefit you after a lifestyle change, but maybe to benefit someone else. And what would benefit someone else would be something that's contagious. Revolution. Huh. Something that's contagious and revolutionary. Because that's the only thing, because you can't really change more than just like the lifestyle, right? So the next step would be revolutionary and contagious. What would be one of those things? It could be a public figure, but that's not a concept, that's just a person, that's just an occupation type of thing. It needs to be something deeper, something that's magnetic. I don't think there's a word for it yet, to be honest. So it's gotta be revolutionary, contagious, magnetic, ingrained. So revolutionary, contagious, magnetic, ingrained. Yeah. There's just a couple, etc. So there's probably other ones, but I just can't be able to think of them right now. Alright, so I think we've gone a little bit more than just step 4. I think we found step 5, which is habit, step 6, which is an addiction, and then step 7, which is a lifestyle change. Right, and then we've got step 8 here. I'm sure there's a step 9 and a step 10, but to be honest with you, step 8 is crazy already. Alright, so we went from where did we go from? So we went from motivation to willpower to discipline to habit to addiction to lifestyle, and then whatever number 8 is. So let me just write that progression out. Alright, so we went from motivation to willpower to discipline to habit and then let's bring it addiction, discipline, habit, addiction, and lifestyle. What is number 8? That's what I can't think of the word for it. Something that's revolutionary, contagious, magnetic, or ingrained, and ingrained as well. I'd say. I mean, it could be like a cult or a religion. Those type of things are definitely magnetic. Okay, what I'll do is I'll write belief, faith, belief. Alright, belief for number 8. The slight question mark. No, I've got to be confident, so belief, cool. Belief, no, what would number 9 be? Number 9 would be the question mark. There would be the question mark. Okay, well, I made some progress and thought, because what I used to think before was that discipline was the final answer, right? But in fact, after discipline becomes a habit, and after a habit it becomes addiction, and after addiction it becomes a lifestyle, and lifestyle becomes a belief meaning a religious type of cultish type of ingrained belief, and then God knows what comes after belief. I haven't thought that much yet, but Yeah, so I think that's pretty good. Though I could look into what number 9 is now. I've got time. I don't know. I probably won't come up with it, but it would have to be. So if belief is something that is contagious, magnetic, and ingrained, right? Something that completely revolutionizes a person and the people around him. 9 would have to be something that changes the world. Because if 8 is a small change around with the people around you, so 8 would be small and oh, environmental change, right? That would be small environmental change for the people around you. 9 would have to be a big environmental change then. And what would number 9 be? It would be something that is. If 8's a belief, if 8's a belief or an idea, right? Something that can be spread. And 9 would be a cult or a religion, something like that. But regardless, I think we made enough progress today. Yeah, so we went from motivation to willpower to discipline to habit to addiction to lifestyle to belief to whatever number 9 is. So you start off with motivation, right? Yeah, it's nothing to do with you completely. It's the outside world affecting you. Then you've got the willpower, right? Where you're kind of exercising your own um, you're exercising your own ability to make a change slightly, and that's willpower. And then discipline is is basically willpower but taken to the max. And willpower, a discipline is built upon willpower. Habits are built upon discipline, and then an addiction becomes an addiction because it's come from a habit. Humans are habitual creatures. Lifestyle changes could become from addiction. Then a belief, it kind of builds upon each other like a building block, right? And whatever number 9 is, don't know what that is. But the weird thing is that motivation, right, is the outside world affecting you, right? But and then belief and lifestyle, for example, like you believe in something, and that's that. Believing in something is an idea, right? Something that can be shared. That's you affecting the outside world. And this kind of change happens at varying degrees, right? So this is the so motivation would be the world completely changing you, right? Affecting you. Willpower would be you slightly changing yourself. Discipline would be you slightly changing. A lot changing yourself. Habit would be you completely changing yourself. Addiction is you regardless. You're not even thinking about this right now, whatever you're doing, and it happens by itself. The lifestyle others see it. The lifestyle others see it, but they don't know about it yet or to get into it. And a belief is the idea of what they learn from you and from your lifestyle and from your beliefs, and that changes the world. And then number 9 is something that not changes the world, because a belief can be something that changes a lot of people around you. Number 9 can be something that changes the world. That leaves the question, what's number 10? Number 10 has to be something that's completely impossible. Or it's possible, but it's an original idea. That's a theory. So number 10, oh, why am I red? Number, what the hell? Alright, number 10. What did I say? Number 10 is something that's completely original or impossible. Original. Because as we know, something original is impossible. It's something original or impossible. Right? If belief is an idea, we can just call, just for now as a placeholder, we can call number 9 change. That means a big impact on the world, a change, a shift in a paradigm, right? For example, how, what's his name? Abraham Lincoln ended slavery. Slavery. Or Alexander Graham Bell found the telephone. Right? This is a big change, right? The internet, stuff like that. And that means, the thing is, the further we go out from like this direction, from motivation to willpower, discipline, habit, addiction, lifestyle, belief, change, and then originality and possibility, the more abstract it gets. Right? There's less examples that I could give, and more abstractness. With belief, I can just say religion. No, it's not religious, because belief in itself cannot be. Belief is something that's firm. It doesn't have to be religion. Okay, and then when it comes to originality, all right. So we've given number 9 a placeholder, and we're calling it change for now. Right. So then, what is number 10? So probably impossible / something that's impossible or something that's original. Right. Okay, let's get this and bring it out here. Let's bring that out here. Originality. Original / impossible. Okay. So if it's impossible, you can't go further. So humans can't go further right now, at this point in time. Can't go further. If it's, however, original, if we go from thinking abstractly to thinking even more abstractly, and we stop using words, and the thing is, at this level of thinking, or at this level that we're at right now, it's too. There are too many avenues you can take. It's just a lot of make-believe right now. You're making stuff up. So, or it's just theorizing. Just theorizing, hypothesizing, kind of guessing. You know, what type of logic? The type of logic I used to get to this point was, so far, the type of logic that I used to get to this point was mostly to do with looking at the trend, right? Pattern recognition and trend following. Pattern recognition, following trend to get here. But either I lack the intellectual capacity to go from here to step number, what number are we on? Number 10. To go to step number 11. Either I lack the capacity to go from original to step number 11, or the other thing is, it's completely impossible. So it's either this or it's this, right? So okay, so when it comes to originality, we're guessing and theorizing. That's too much. To be honest with you, after this point right now, the level I am, when it comes to my thought, I don't think I can go further. I can go further, but it would just be a waste of time and just a lot of rambling at this point. Something to think about. What comes after originality? Alright, just to summarize here. So, answer the question. I'm trying to understand why consistency is rare. Right, that's what I was trying to do. Then I found out that people mostly rely on motivation and willpower instead of discipline over time, because that is the path of least resistance. Motivation and willpower is the path of least resistance, so that's why. Alright, cool. Then we found out that kind of motivation leads to willpower, which leads to discipline, which leads to habit, which leads to addiction, lifestyle, belief and change, originality, and God knows whatever comes after that. And also we found out that these things in the beginning, like these low levels here, motivation and willpower, this is the outside world affecting us. And when it comes to the higher levels, we affect the world, right? These are the high levels. So in original thought, just one thought can have a billion different stems coming off of it when it's linked, or when other objective truths that are out there and stuff like that are used and merged with it. So that's us affecting the world. If we made an original thought, it would be akin to, it would be something greater than, or something more revolutionary, more surprising, and more amazing than, for example, the internet or the telephone, something like that. I wouldn't say slavery because that. Anyways, so yeah, so it's us affecting the world, and there's stuff like that. Because the thing is, after this, right, there's, because we could talk about after originality, we can go into stuff like, for example, the law of attraction. We can talk about dimensions. I could probably go into axioms. We can talk about high level physics theory. High level physics theory. And I can go much more. But all of these things are basically just speculation right now. Until I use logic and reasoning and so on to, prove, okay, one of these definitely do exist, and we have some information on it, and we can go from there, right? Axiom, whatever, these type of things. There's no point of discussing it right now. And plus, I think I lack the intellectual capacity to go there right now at this point. I'll just be rambling. Yeah, so, alright. I think that's good for now.